We are doing third Mundaka, section 2, and in this Mundaka, very beautifully, the Angirasa Rishi is teaching Shaunak Rishi. And towards the end of this particular Upanishad, beautiful mantras are revealed for deep nididhyasan. Only when Brahma Vidya Shravanam is done in the proper spirit of internal renunciation, coupled by external situations which are put to rest in the transactional reality, we have to take time off away from the worldly life, and the worldly life has to be put at bay. The transaction at the physical level cannot go on and on and on. In this particular Mundaka, the Rishi reveals the importance of putting away all the karmas and exclusively picking up the karma of nididhyasan. Even though it is not a karma, the deep contemplation which takes the jiva to the acme of height of pure awareness and to drown the individual self in it. Beautiful mantras over here reveal the deep state of contemplation. And even though it is not a state, the abidance in the self is not a state, yet the sadhana of the jignasa, the spiritual practice of cultivating a desire to go towards it and exclusively holding on to it at the exclusion of all other activity, is what is impressed upon in this particular Mundaka. The first three mantras we saw, Savedaitat Paramam Brahmadhama Yatra Vishwam Nihitam Bhati Shubram Upasate Purusham Hyakamaha Te Shukram Etad Vivartanti Dhiraha. This Dhira Purushaha is the one who has exclusively chosen the self, and this person dives towards the absolute self, which is very beautifully described over here. And again, the nididhyasan is referred to over here as the upasana. The saguna upasana is over, and the nirguna upasana of contemplation, the nirguna upasana of dissolving the antakarana is all talked about over here. Saha, this man of self-realization, and also the man who aspires to realize the self, the jignasu, the student of Brahma Vidya, both over here. But over here, Saha Veda Etat Paramam Brahmadhama, the realized soul realizes this Veda Etat, he comes to know. And over here, knowing is not knowing the knowing of the phone, the knowing of the cup, the knowing of the watch, the table. It is not the objective knowledge. It is the knowledge that I am the subjective self. That knowledge is referred to over here is etad, even though this, but this is me. So over here, saved etad paramam brahmadhama, the absolute abode is known over here. Yatra Vishwam Nihitam Bhati Shubram, and in it the whole universe shines brilliantly. The awareness of the absolute Brahman, the awareness, objectless awareness is what shines. It is what vilasanti, it shines in all manifested world, exists within the purview of awareness, because it is in awareness the matter is known. Matter has no independent existence apart from consciousness. Without consciousness, matter can never ever be known. So in this awareness within, the objective world is known, and this Vishwam Nihitam, it within it rests inside, it is fixated within, it is enveloped in consciousness. All these things we have to bring in Nididhyasan. What is meant by saying it is inside? Please don't think it is like the water is inside this cup. It is not like the consciousness is like a giant crucible and in it is thrown everything. No, what is meant, it is the limitation of language when it is said nihitam, that within consciousness everything exists. It is this consciousness which becomes the support of all. So if at all anything exists, it is nothing but consciousness. Within it, it is seen as a matter, but that matter is not apart from awareness. So when we say nihitam inside, but then inside it shines. So how can matter shine over here? Meaning matter is known, matter is revealed. The revelation of it, the knowledge of it takes place within it, inside it. And when I say it is inside it, then something can be outside it. Well, there is nothing outside it. It alone is. This is called contemplation, and these are all the contemplation mantras. The end of this Mundaka Upanishad is very beautiful. In different ways it reveals this. Upasate, and this is to be done. This is a upasana to be engaged in, and the man of realization ever abides in it, and the man who aspires to realize engages in this upasana. Purusham ye hi aptakamaha, self-fulfilled he is, and the one who has a desire to realize that self has a desire, but it is that one desire for the higher which nullifies all other desires. So aptakamaha, the one who is self-fulfilled, the one who in whom no desires remain. But for the one who wants to realize that one desire, upon abidance in it, even that will fall off. So the Purusham over here, this absolute being is being worshipped. Upasate, he aptakama, the one who is fulfilled. Te shukram etad ativartanti dhiraha. This absolute self, which is Shukram over here, Shukram, the very seed of the human birth, the very seed of individuality, he goes beyond the individuality. He goes beyond the world of change. He goes beyond the world of manifestation. Shukram is literally the seed of a man, the sperm which is responsible for creating the variety of creation, variety in creation. He ativartante, he goes beyond. All shukras of all yonis he has transcended. Please don't take it literally a human birth. He goes beyond all birth. He goes beyond all change. That is what is referred to as Shukram. All change, he goes beyond it and he abides in it. So we saw this mantra. Kamanya kamayate manyamanaha sa kamabir jayate tatra tatra. Paryapta kamasya krutatmanastu ihaiva sarve praviliyanti kamaha. This is often quoted mantra of Mundaka Upanishad. It is a very famous mantra after Dvasuparna Sayuja Sakhayo. That this mantra over here, Yaha Kaman, he who one objects of desires, kamayate, he consciously broods over it, he desires over it, saha manyamanaha, continuously the mind which is desiring all various objects, sa kamabir jayate tatra tatra, and the mind, as the desire, the mind will end up in all those places. And again, see, this is a deep contemplation to create vairagya in that mind, that, oh my mind, you are running after all these desires. One desire you chase, you will become that desire. That is what is said over here. Tatra tatra jayate. The mind takes birth in all those places wherever the mind ends up. So wherever the desires take the mind will end up in those places. Tatra tatra jayate. It is born there and there again. And it perpetuates the cycle of the desire becoming a thought, becoming an object of meditation, becoming an object of procuring it, and upon procuring various objects, that mind will either develop raga or dvesha, and the raga and dvesha will grow, and that mentation on that raga dvesha janita vastu kamana will keep on growing. So this vicious cycle is explained over here, that if the mind runs and chases after desires, it will become desire. Why is this mentioned over here? In the jignasu, to create the jignasa for Brahman. To create the jignasa for the higher, it is explained over here. Manyamana, the continuous brooding over, if that takes place, the mind ends up over there. But on the other hand, paryapta kamastu krutatmanastu, but the one in whom the far extremity of the ocean of desire, when it is reached, paryapta kama, one who has reached the penultimate desire, the one who has crossed over the ocean of desire, paryapta kama, all the longings are gone. Kruta atmanaha, the one whose mind is fulfilled, for that person, ihaiva sarve praviliyanti kamaha. Here and here alone, all desires come to an end, and for that person there is no going to a Brahmaloka, going to a Gandharva Loka, Saket Loka, this Loka. There is no going, because wherever there is going, there is coming. So the going and the coming comes to an end. Ihaiva sarve, here alone that person meets the end. Bound in the very body of just 5 feet, that body itself, in there the jiva finds the abode of everything, and everything comes to an end right here. So this Jivan Mukti is talked about. In the first 2 lines, what is talked about is the Gati. As the Kamana, so will be the Gati. But in the last 2 lines of this mantra, if the Kamana itself is gone, there is no Gati. Gati meaning going and coming. There is absolutely no going, no coming. And Shankaracharya ji loves this mantra. Mumukshoho kamatyaga eva pradhanam sadhanam iti etad darshayati. For the mumukshu, Shankaracharya ji says that kamatyaga eva pradhana sadhanam, the exclusive sadhana for a mumukshu is the kamana tyag. That is talked about over here, that if we do not in this life develop a desire to renounce desire, the desires by themselves will not end. It is an infinite ocean. To think that I will act upon the desire and enjoy it and get it over with is a wishful thinking. To enjoy it, it will only create more and more raga towards it. So Shankaracharya ji over here, Kamatyaga is talked about, that come to extinguish desires. How do we come to extinguish desires? We have to be vigilant in our living. We have to convert all binding desires into non-binding desires, number 1. What is a binding desires? I have to have it. That is called a binding desire. Bas, mujhe yehi chahiye. That is a binding desire, and that has to be converted into non-binding desire. What is non-binding desire? If I get it, God's grace. If I don't get it, God's grace. That is called a non-binding desire. When we live our life at that level, it becomes prasad buddhi. Whatever Bhagavan puts in front of us in our life, we come to accept it. It's very easier said than done. Very easy to say this, but to actually live in this spirit of prasad buddhi, we have to be very vigilant, very vigilant. So this is nishkamata se punarjanma nivrittihi. When we go towards nishkamata, Shankaracharya ji says puna janma nivrittihi. The next birth is truncated right there and then. The next birth is given up. So that is very beautifully over here Shankaracharya ji talks about. We saw this continuing to the next mantra. Nayamatma pravachanena labhyah na medaya na bahuna shrutena yame vaisha vrunute tena labhyah tasyaisha atma vivrunute tanuswam. This is also a very, very famous mantra. This mantra also appears in Katho Upanishad. It is another beautiful adesh or upadesh given to a mumukshu, a jignasu, the one who has a desire to realize the self. One must cultivate this jignasa. Yadyevam sarva labhat param atma labah tal labhaya pravachanadaya upaya bahulyena kartavya iti prapta idam uchyate. So over here Shankaracharya ji, he says that the one who is desirous of Atma Darshan, meaning the one who is desirous of the self, for that person sarva labhat param atma labhat tal labhaya pravachanadaya, the gain of the self, one has to come to intellectually appreciate that the gain of the self, there is no gain greater than the gain of the self. That has to be first understood, and to understand that the labha, sarva labhat para, the gain of gaining all gains and beyond it, there is nothing greater than the Atma labha, the gain of the self. That has to be understood, appreciated, and that understanding has to be passed on to the mind so that it doesn't consciously meditate on desires. This is the idea presented over here. That understanding that there is no gain greater than the self, that understanding, when it is impressed upon the mind will stop wandering in the fertile fields of desires. Until then, the mind will eke out desires, and that is what is said. How do I get it? So first I have to hear about it. Pravachana. Pravachan is for inspiring the intellect. When we go through the motion of actually waking up and making sure that our entire daily routine, we create a special time for listening. Even though there are a lot of activities to be done, and the day is filled with so many places where I have to go, and appearances that I have to make, and the transaction forces me to be engaged in this worldly affair. But in spite of all that, when this exclusive time is made for pravachan, it is that pravachan which allows the intellect to absorb the knowledge of the self, the intellectual knowledge of the self properly, so that it can integrate the mind, so that the mind will not get lost in the field of desires. So because of that, Shankaracharya ji gave this introduction and says, Ayam Atma pravachanena na labhyaha. In the pravachan, in the talk, in the shravanam, this Atma will not be available in the pravachan. What does that mean? All that means is when we are doing listening, Shravanam has to be done with Vairagya. If Vairagya is not there, then the mind will be not in the pravachan, the mind will be in the desire of the world of objects. But if Varana Purvak Shravanam is done, meaning if that mind exclusively seeks the self and that mind is attentive about the higher in and through this pravachan, then as the pravachan goes on, Atma Jnana will take place. Shravana matrena jnanam bhavati, but it has to be a prepared person. If a person is not prepared, so the unprepared person is talked about over here, that nayamatma pravachanena labhyaha. It is not available. We can take ourselves to pravachan, but if we are not prepared, Atma will not be available. Na medhaya, na bahuna shrutena. Some people have amazing ability to retain Shastra. Shastrartha Grahana Shakti Medha. The ability to remember the mantras, the meaning, that all the suktams, this, that. Like a tape recorder, you press a button and the full Rudram comes out for 13 minutes. Medha Shakti. So over here, that Medha Shakti of the intellect will not come. Na bahuna shrutena. Some people listen. People used to go to Gurudev and say, Gurudev, this is my 150th Jnana Yajna, and he would say, my prarabdha, you're sitting in front of me. So it is not the number of pravachans we listen, it is not the number of Jnana Yajnas we attain, but how well we are in tune with what we have heard. That becomes important. That is why yame vaisha vrunute tena labhyaha. Yam eva esha vrunute. That person, when they exclusively choose the self. Varana, vrunute, varana. Varana purvak shravana. The shravanam is done of the mind wants that and that alone and nothing else. And that is called varana. Exclusive desire for the self. Yame vaisha vrunute tena labhyaha. That person alone gets who wants that and that alone and nothing else. That person alone is eligible. Tasyesha atma vivrunute tanuswam. This is very beautifully said. To that person who chooses the self chooses that person. To the extent to which we give up the lower and yoke to the higher, to that extent the higher chooses us. Gurudev used to say. Even one thing brings our mind down, that one thing will not allow us to go higher. That higher self will abandon us. The attention of the mind is looted away by the objective reality. What is said over here is there should be a complete vairagya for the manifested objective reality. The subjective self should alone be the exclusive choice, and when the subjective self alone is chosen, nothing else can stand in front of it. To such a person, the self reveals its true nature. To such a person, the self chooses. In that person, the Koti Brahmand will take place. For that person, in that person will dawn the realization of the all-pervading self. And that is sadhana which is talked over here. Exclusive choice is the sadhana. The sadhana kena tarhi labhya iti uchyate yam eva paramatmanam eva esha vidvan vrunute praptum icchanti tena varena esha paramatma labhyah na anyena sadhanan antarena nitya labdha swabhavat. Shankaracharya ji says that this vidvan, the wise man, exclusively chooses that praptum icchanti tena varena esha paramatma labhyah, because he exclusively chooses that paramatma chooses. Why? Because nitya labdha swabhavat, it is already gained. It is the gain of the one which is already gained. It is not like gaining the watch. The gain of the watch is the external gain, because it is object apart from me, different from me. But Atma is not an object to be gained, because Atma is me, myself. But right now, the Atma which is I, me, myself is not known to me, because my desires mask it, or my desires create a veil in recognizing my own true nature. So when I remove the veil of ignorance, which is what the mind mentating upon the objective reality is the veil. So when the mind doesn't choose this, but the mind chooses itself, it reveals. All the desires vanish in front of it, and what it is revealed to it, and that mind itself merges into it. Nitya labdha swabhavat, it is already gained. That is why Shankaracharya ji says that there is no other sadhanani, na anya sadhanani. There is no other path, meaning there is no other way other than the renouncing of the desires. Na karmana, na prajaya, dhanena, tyagena, ekena amrutatva manashuhu. By tyag alone, this one alone can be attained. It has to be completely renounced. Kidrushaha asau vidushaha atmalabha iti uchyate. How is this gain of the self? Tasyeva atma avidya sanchannam swam param tanum swatma tattvam spurupam vivrunute prakashayati prakasha iva ghatadihi vidyayam satyam avihi bhavati ityarthaha. So tasyesha atma, this atma, because of the ignorance, because of the veil of ignorance created by desires, swam param tanum, this veil of ignorance, which this upadhi of the body, the physical form, the upadhi of the subtle body, and the upadhi of the causal body, the three bodies, the gross body, the subtle body, and the causal body, these three bodies, they are superimposed upon this Atma and Atma alone. Actually, apart from Atma, nothing is. But on this Atma dawns a veil of desire which becomes a seed for the individual to experience the desire and to act upon a desire. So all these bodies are superimposed upon it, and when the understanding removes this ignorance, Atma is revealed. That is prakasha iva ghatadi vidyayam satyam bhavihi satya bhavihi bhavati ityarthaha. Just like a light reveals objects. When the lights are turned on, all that is in the hall is known. In the same way, the three bodies are also known because of the light of the self itself. Without the light of awareness, the seedal body would not exist. The seed would not exist. The seed of all desires. Without the seed of all desires, the locus where the desire can be explored, that cannot exist. And without this locus, there would not be a physical form to actually enjoy that particular medium through which the desire is transacted. All within the light of consciousness, each one of these three function. And thus this Atma is considered to be the greatest gain. Without this, nothing can be experienced. And I get caught up in these little gains of the desire, but we forget that even that one desire is only illumined by the self and self alone. No desire can exist apart from the self, and thus the gain of the Atma, Atma labhat anyat na kinchit asti. There is no gain greater than the gain of the self, because when I gain that, all desires are gained. Because without it, no desire can be revealed. Thus, the gain of Atma is considered to be tallabhat na kinchidasti param labha. Without it, there is no other gain, is what Shankaracharya ji says. Thus, this is considered to be a great gain, and tasmat anyat tyagena atma labhat anya tyagena, by renouncing all other desires, all one, each one of these desires, when they are renounced, what is beyond the desire is the light which even reveals the desire. So when I go to that light, all desires are as though gained, because no desire can exist apart from the light of awareness, and in this way it is considered to be the greatest gain. Continuing, mantra number 4. Nayamatma balaheenena labhyah nacha pramadat tapaso vapyalingat etairupayaye yatate yastu vidvan tasyaisha atma vishate brahmadhama. So now, na ayam atma balahinena labhyah. Again, all these are the various sadhanas required to gain the self is talked about, and over here it is said this atma cannot be gained by balahinena. Balahinena, the one who is a weakling. Who is a weakling? A weak mind. The mind has to be so strong to give up the ownership of all the desires. That's why 3rd chapter is Karma Yoga, 4th chapter is Jnana, Karma Sannyas Yoga, and the 5th chapter is Karma Sannyas Yoga. Complete renunciation of karma. Because the mind is kim karomi, what should I do, what should I do, what should I do? It is continuously caught up in the web of getting this and going away from that. And the mind runs after various desires. So a weak mind will not work over here. The mind has to be strong. What is the strength of the mind? The strength of the mind is to give up the ownership of the desires. That is called Karma Sannyas, 5th chapter. Complete renunciation of the ownership of desires. Karma goes on, but there is no ownership. Prakrute kriyamanani. Prakriti does all the actions. I am not the doer. And if I am not the doer, I am not the enjoyer. Easy to say that, I am not the doer, but something nice happens, let me just enjoy this. No, not even enjoyment. Even that, we all know the famous story of somebody gifting Tapovanji Maharaj laddu and him hiding it, and Gurudev, when he was studying, he said one day goes by, second day goes by, third day, he is not giving laddus. The enjoyership is there. I want to enjoy. In Tapovanji Maharaj, no enjoyership. After a week it was removed and said, just offer them to Gangaji. He was thinking, maybe he is eating by himself and not sharing. Every single one of them came out, and this is balahinena. It is in front, but no desire to consume it, no desire to act upon it. It's the strength of a mind for the world of objects, the desired objects being in front of us, yet not even a desire to touch it. Sparsh matra api, not even to touch it, then what to talk of actually indulging in it. That is called this Atma for a person who is balahina. the strength born out of Atmanishtha Janita Shakti. If that is not there, what sadhana will we do? We are so inspired by listening to talks for 3-4 days, and we will do sadhana, and after 4-5 days back to that same routine. That is called the weakness of the mind. Swamiji, it is very nice, when I'm listening, but then when we have a break, whatnot, back to that same rut of life. That is what is described over here, balahina. If we are devoid of that, then Atma is not available. Nacha pramadat. And for the one who is erroneous, one who commits errors. And who commits errors? The one who is not in awareness. That's why Swami Chinmayananji always used to say, quiet, alert, vigilant. This is where he was getting all these things. The quietude of mind so that no desire would germinate. That's called quiet. Alert to make sure that no desires enter. And vigilant so that I stay steadfast on the spiritual practice without erring. That quiet, alert and vigilant, all three at this level. Talks and are there, that quiet, alert, vigilant, but in this context, for the higher, that mind is always kept nirmal. The Manasa Sarovar, the lake of the mind, is rippleless. When it is extremely cold in the high elevations by Kailashji, there is not one little ripple being formed in Mansarovar. No wind of passion. And on such a cold winter day, when one looks at the still turquoise blue water, the Kailash mountain on the other end, when it is reflected, we do not know which one is the real, the reflection or the one standing. That mind is, the Manasa Sarovar is that still. That is the stillness talked about over here, the rippleless mind, the still mind, the quiet mind. That is called a quiet prakruti, tapasaha va api alingat. Tapascharya, people do so many tapascharya. Even tapascharya's do not guarantee realization, because the only guarantee path of realization is the mind has to renounce all desires. Vivek, Vairagya, Shat Sampatti, and then cultivating mumukshutvam. All that is talked about over here, that is the sadhana of preparation. And api alingat, this is a very technical term used over here, that what it means is sannyas without jnana. Linga, we say, Lord Shiva is indicated by Shiva Linga. Linga meaning some insignia, some mark. Lingyate gamyate iti anena. Through that linga, Shiva is indicated, even though it's a round stone. So the linga of Atma, someone may say, it is the ochre cloth. So if somebody takes a sannyas, they say that, oh, he's a brahmachari, sannyasi, brahmachari, brahman charati iti brahmachari, the one who has a desire to tread Brahman and Brahman alone, wants nothing else, that is called a brahmachari. Not abstaining from pleasures and whatnot. The one who exclusively has the goal fixated on Brahman and Brahman alone is brahmachari. And such a brahmachari takes sannyas. And that sannyas is called vividisha sannyas. Sannyas for the desire to attain Brahman. There is another sannyas called vidvat sannyas. The one who has already known Brahman, but it would be redundant for such a person to take sannyas, because they would have never attained Brahman without renunciation. So the renunciation of such a person, oh, how can you say that person is a sannyasi? Because he is already a sannyasi, because without being a sannyasi he would not have attained Brahman. Like Taponji Maharaj gave sannyas to himself because nobody was willing to give him. All the others thought, my God, he is so qualified. Hamsananda Giri Maharaj, Taponji Maharaj approached him and asked him that, please give me sannyas. And he folded his hand. He says, you've already taken sannyas. I have no qualifications to give sannyas to you. He was all sannyasi, but he felt that it was such a great Mahatma. So he went to Narmada, he removed his clothes and put on he put on ochre robe, and he gave himself a name, Tyagananda. And he came and he settled in Himalayas, and people asked that, what is your Dashanami Sannyasi Parampara? So, what Dashanami Sannyasi Parampara? I gave my own sannyas. And in Kailash Ashram they said, you please take proper sannyas. This way we will, it will give glory to sannyas ashram if you take sannyas. Others just take sannyas for the sake of getting Brahman. But you, on the other hand, you are such a well-known person, complete abidance in absolute. So he was already a sannyasi because Vidvat, he was knower of Brahman. But yet he properly took sannyas. And the name was given Tapovanam, the one, a forest of austerity. So people take sannyas for the sake of attaining Brahman. But after taking sannyas, if they do not do that, then over here it is said, va api alingat. What is sannyas without jnana? That is what is mentioned over here. The linga over here is the linga of Brahman, this ochre robe. That ochre robe alone is not Brahman. The ochre robe, when one takes and one leads oneself and gets abidance, that ochre robe is a sannyasi. Otherwise, even Ravana had put an ochre robe, but it was only to steal, abduct Mother Sita. He was the first person who gave bad name to ochre robe. And that parampara still continues. You can see in Haridwar, ochre robe and charas, ganja, smoking, drinking, this, that. It is such a, it destroys our faith even in the ochre robe. What to do? So Shruti herself says over here that the goal is not the ochre robe. The goal is the abidance in the self, upon taking the ochre robe, if one misses out on that, finished. I mean, look at even our Guruji, one tallest stature in knower of the self, and yet he says, enough work. Bas. Now, exclusive abidance, nothing else. 4 months gone into seclusion. It would be redundant for a knower of Brahman to meditate on Brahman. Brahma with Brahmaiva bhavati. What does he have to do? But he's setting an example for all ochre robe people. If he doesn't do it, who will do it? The little frail body, barely 80 pounds, Periyava Swamiji, completely emaciated. He would hold his stick and go around the whole world. A cloth down there, a cloth up there. Only in tank he would take bath. Why would he want to do that? They did Suvarna Abhishek to him, Moti Abhishek to him, Diamond Abhishek. He could care less, throw whatever you want. That linga is Paramalinga. That is the glory of the ochre robe. God walking on planet. That brings glory to this. So Upanishad also says that all tapascharya can only be called tapascharya provided it becomes in a little frail, barely 5 feet stature, infinite Brahmans appear at the same time. That is called tapas. This is the glory of this person. So sannyas without jnana, Shruti says, means nothing. The ochre robe. Only when it is etaihi upayaihi yatate yastu vidwan. With these upay, with these spiritual practices, this vidwan yatate puts forth the effort, tasyeisha atma vishate brahmadham. This person penetrates Brahman only through this pure fortitude of the mind and says, I want nothing but this self and self alone. And only such a person penetrates the pinnacle of this Brahmadham. Even though there is no entering of this Brahmadham, we are Brahman, we just don't know it, we have to own it. So I will continue on Thursday, the last portion, this last 2 lines, Shankaracharya ji very nicely he has mentioned, and beautiful mantras on contemplation of this. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.